chapters. All the stories are fictional. They are only meant for entertainment and fun and relaxation, and they are not written by me. So let's just get started. I don't want the intro to be too long. Today's story is titled The Deep Diver of the Ink Valleys. Very unique title. Let's dive into it. Chapter 1. The Weight of the Depths. At the edge of the world, where the snow turns into a black liquid fog, lived a bear named Gideon. Gideon wasn't soft, and his fair fur wasn't colorful. He was a trench bear, with skin as tough as ironwood and fur the color of a moonless midnight. He didn't live in a cabin or a cave. He lived in a submersible bell, a heavy iron sphere tethered to a miles-long silver cable that vanished up in the frozen sky. Gideon's job was dangerous, and it was entirely silent. He was a deep diver. Below his station lay the ink valleys, massive chasms filled with thick liquid shadows Gideon's lantern could only cut a tiny blue circle through the darkness, extending only a few inches past his snout. The silence here was not peaceful. It was heavy. It pressed against his ears like a pair of giant hands. Thump, 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 thump. The only sound was the slow metallic echo of his own breathing inside the brass helmet. And that is the end of chapter 2. Let's move together now to chapter 3 to see how Gideon basically saves the world. Like, I know for sure he is going to retrieve the big chunk of dick and just help the world move forward. Chapter 3: The Trapped Second. Gideon sank for what felt like hours, deeper into the absolute nothingness. The suspense of the deep was thick. At any moment, the pressure could crack his visor, or the cable could snap, leaving him floating in the timeless ink forever. Suddenly, his lantern flickered. Ahead of him, the ink was churning. Something was spinning in the dark. He moved closer, his heavy paws kicking through the thick liquid with a slow, laborious swish, swish. There, trapped between two jagged ridges of underwater iron, was a grand second. It was a crystal, the size of a boulder, glowing with a fierce, unstable gold light. Inside the crystal, an image of a clock hand was moving backward and forward, trapped in a loop. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. The sound didn't travel through the air. It vibrated straight through Gideon's brass boots. If he touched it wrong, the loop would catch him and he would be stuck in that single second for eternity. surface.